Welcome to NHL Quick Hits. I'm David Crosby here with Steele Roden for a special episode previewing some of the best bets for the 2021-22 NHL season. Now, it would be easy to say we like one or two of the three best teams or players in the league to win each category, and that might even be our choice for some of these bets. But this episode is to help you identify some of the best values out there, not necessarily who we think the favorites should be for each category. One last qualifier here. Every outlet offers different odds. Maybe the best tip you're going to get today is to shop around. This could mean a huge difference in what odds are available to you. Steele, let's start with the big prize, the Stanley Cup. Who's your favorite pick to win it all this season?
It's got to be the New York Islanders at plus 2,000. I think that brings great odds to the table. But just the way they play the game and Barry Trotz being their head coach, without a question, I think everyone knows this at this point that Barry Trotz is my favorite coach and he's one of the top coaches in the league. But that's not the reason why I'm picking them. If you look at what they've done at the trade deadline last year, what they've done this offseason in acquiring some guys like Zach Parise, recently Zdeno Chara, as well as at the trade deadline, Kyle Palmieri. They've added guys that fit to their game and their play style, as well as you're getting Anders Lee, your captain, back at the beginning of the season. So with all of these things happening, with all of the guys they've acquired, getting people back, as well as Varlamov and Sorokin, guys like that, the whole entire team is gelling right now. And we've seen so many times in the last years, they've gotten to the conference finals the last 2 years. The season previous to that, they were in the second round where they lost. But we saw this previously with the Washington Capitals. They went through years where they were just getting kicked around by the Pittsburgh Penguins. They finally got past them, and they finally won the Stanley Cup. And I think that's where the New York Islanders are at right now, this upcoming season. And that's why I've got the New York Islanders winning the Stanley Cup this season.
I love that pick. I think the Islanders are definitely a top two team in the Eastern Conference this season. So at 20-1 odds, to me, that's a really good pick. Two teams jumped out to me, though, and they actually have the same odds. Chicago and Winnipeg are both 50-1 to win the Cup, and I think both of them have legitimate chances to win. Funny enough, I like them for similar reasons, too. The two previous Vezina winners mind the net for each team. Connor Hellebuck has been a rock in Winnipeg for years, and the Blackhawks, of course, stole Marc-Andre Fleury from Vegas for absolutely nothing. These teams may have the two most improved blue lines in the league this year, and we all know how important a good defense can be in the playoffs. And of course, each team boasts elite talent in their top six and some unheralded depth, frankly, in their bottom six. They're both great narrative picks, too. Losing Mark Scheifele to suspension, that crushed the Jets' playoff hopes in the second round. Pierre-Luc Dubois, he has no excuse not to be that elite two-way center that Winnipeg thought they were trading for last season. And Chicago maybe has some of the wildest storylines in the league. Fleury's revenge tour, the potential return of Jonathan Toews and Kirby Dach, Seth Jones getting a chance to live up to that gigantic contract. It's all there, but I'm not going to pick one of those two just yet. You're going to find out in my Central Division picks which one I like more because, of course, both are in that same division. Now, this season, we're back to the NHL's usual four divisions. Let's go through our best bets for division winners. We'll start in the Pacific, where the Seattle Kraken are the newest member, and somewhat surprisingly, they have the third best odds to take the division for most outlets. What's your bet in the Pacific, Steele?
It's a no-brainer for me, and it's the Las Vegas Golden Knights at minus 170. There's just no real competition in that division. You look at the California teams, all three of them have been brutal the last couple of seasons. They're all on the older side with their age gap. They have a couple of prospects, but not good enough to actually dominate for the team. Then you look at the Vancouver Canucks, who really struggled last year, as like you just said, with the Seattle Kraken being that new team who actually might have the best shot at winning their division. But even then, it's a long shot. So for me, it's the Las Vegas Golden Knights. They've added a couple of guys to their roster, like Nolan Patrick and Evgeny Dadonov, that really fill the bottom six forward depth. Robin Leonard now being the starter. I think they did a great job in picking up Laurent Brossoit. He's a fantastic backup as well. So not a lot of things have changed for the Las Vegas Golden Knights, but they've added a couple of guys that just make them a little bit better from last year. and they're going to be the most dominant team in their division. So without question, the Las Vegas Golden Knights.
I think this is a two-horse race. And, I just don't like betting heavy favorites. I get it. I understand if you're going to put your money behind a favorite, you want it to be a dominant team like Vegas, a team that's been dominant every single year. But to me, Edmonton is the pick here, if only because the Knights are pretty much priced out. There's just too much potential this season for something to go wrong. This whole thing with Marc-Andre Fleury leaving, and now it's all on Robin Lehner's shoulders. I like Lehner as a goalie. I think he's really talented, but Edmonton at plus 550 just has so much more juice than Vegas at minus 160. Now, if you also caught Connor McDavid talking about officiating recently, I think the Heat's going to be on the officials to not let calls go this year, and hopefully they're going to keep it consistent going into the playoffs. But of course, that's a whole different story. I think with McDavid and Draisaitl leading one of the league's most lethal power plays, I think Edmonton could win this division. I hope they trade for another goalie to pair with Mike Smith. I know you probably looked at those odds and looked at Mike Smith and thought there's no chance I'm putting a dime on that team. But I think Mike Smith is good enough to help them win that division in the regular season. Let's jump over to the Central now, where the Arizona Coyotes got bumped by the Kraken, and they are the unanimous choice for the worst finish in that division. I'll start with my favorite pick here, Steele, where you can get both the Jets and the Blackhawks for plus 2,000. They're both great picks, but I would give the Jets a slight edge for the division due to the continuity that they have. There's so many new pieces there in Chicago. However, like I said off the top, I am going to give you my Stanley Cup pick, and despite picking Winnipeg to win that division, I think Chicago is actually a better bet for the Cup due to the championship experience that they have there. Who do you have in this division?
I think the Jets is a great choice for a division winner. I think you could also go with the Minnesota Wild at plus 550. They were dominant all season last year, especially against the Colorado Avalanche. But again, I think it's just too far-fetched to pick one of those teams. Even though the money's a little bit better, I think you still have to go with the favorite, with the Colorado Avalanche at minus 220. They're just too dominant. Like the same thing with the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Not much has changed with their team or with their roster besides getting Darcy Kemper as their starting goaltender, which in my mind is equivalent to still having Philip Grubauer. They're both really good goaltenders. It was a difficult situation for Kemper being with the Arizona Coyotes because they've struggled for so many years now. But again, I think a guy like Darcy Kemper brings the same kind of value as Philip Grubauer did with the Colorado Avalanche. So again, I've got to go with the heavy favorite here with the Colorado Avalanche.
I mean, I can't hate on that pick. And just to bring it up, if you're going to bet Vegas and Colorado to win their division, there might be a nice little parlay that you can put together there and maybe get some of that odds going back in your favor. Let's talk about the Atlantic, where Montreal, last year's Stanley Cup runner-up, are projected to miss the playoffs by most books. Which odds caught your eye in this division?
I think it's the second favorite team in this division is the Toronto Maple Leafs that I have winning the division over the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. I think they've done a lot of things right this offseason, and I feel like I say this all the time. It's deja vu again. We're back in the same situation, but I feel like they've actually added the right pieces this time around. They added younger guys, not a guy like Joe Thornton, even though I have so much love and respect for him. He just didn't do much for me last year. They added guys like Nick Ritchie, who's going to be playing with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner on the first line. Andre Cachet, who's going to be playing with Jason Spezza and Wayne Simmons on the fourth line. A guy like Michael Bunting, who's going to be playing on the third line. They've added guys that fit to this type of style they want to be heading towards with the skill that they already have on their team. So they bring that physical greatness with the guys that they acquired, as well as Peter Mrazek going to be battling it out with Jack Campbell for the crease this upcoming season. I think they have the best tandem duo in the division, and I believe that they are going to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning out for the top position in their division.
I don't hate your logic here, Steele, and that's the thing about the Leafs is they haven't struggled in the regular season. They've been great in the regular season. It's when they get to the playoffs that they seem to fall apart. So I actually followed kind of some similar logic to you. I think the Lightning are the clear best team here, but after those back-to-back championships, they might not be motivated to chase the best regular season record, and instead they might try to get some rest for their best players. However, I did not go in Toronto. I went with the other Florida team, the Panthers. I think they are better than both Boston and Toronto. And I love the fact that they have the fourth longest odds in the division. I don't think they should be that far down to me. Last but not least, the Metro. This is the deepest division in the league, and in my eyes, probably the hardest choice for division winner. I'll probably stay away from this one, but if I did bet, my money's going on the Islanders at plus 350. You could talk me into anyone but the Blue Jackets, and I don't think I'd disagree. I just trust New York the most for all of the reasons you said earlier in your Stanley Cup pick. I think even if they suffer injuries like they did last year with Anders Lee, they'll be able to keep plugging along. Who did you have in this one?
I also went with the New York Islanders, the team I picked to win the Stanley Cup this year. But I don't think you can go wrong with the other New York team, the New York Rangers. They were one of my favorite teams to look forward to last season. Obviously, they didn't live up to that expectation I put on them. But again, I think there's just so much talent there. They have so much talent up front, on the blue line, as well as those two young goaltenders in Georgiev and Shesterkin, that they can't have a bad season this year. So I think either way, if you go with the New York Islanders, like you said, at plus 350, or the New York Rangers at plus 550, you can't go wrong with either one. So either of the New York teams for me, but again, I chose the New York Islanders.
We'll touch on some more bets closer to the season. Many of those player props aren't available in many places. In the meantime, though, Steele, did any other bets catch your eye?
I didn't take quite a good look at some of them, but if you're looking at Austin Matthews, obviously getting to 50 goals, that's a pretty good bet right there. So that would be the one that kind of stuck out to me, but I got to dig a little deeper and do a little more research in order for things to stick out for me right now.
Well, good. You can talk me off the ledge then on some of these I like. You let me know if you like these as much as I do. I like the Devils to not make the playoffs at minus 210. I think there are 6 teams better than them in their division, and they just aren't there yet for me.
I agree with you right here. I think, again, they're not going to make the playoffs. I think there's just a couple of better teams out there, like you said, so I wouldn't take those odds right there.
Now, I know this is a tough division, but I like both the Blackhawks and the Jets to make the playoffs. That's at minus 115 each. I like both those teams better than the Stars and the Blues. I think with that fiasco going on in Minnesota right now, it's possible they take a step back. What do you think about both of those teams making the playoffs?
I agree with you there. I wasn't sure about the Blackhawks last season, but somehow it just kind of worked out. But this season, I like those odds for both the Jets and the Blackhawks. They've done so much in the offseason, like you said, acquiring Marc-Andre Fleury, Seth Jones, as well as his brother Caleb Jones. You're getting Jonathan Taves back into the lineup, and hopefully he's at 100%. You still have guys like Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat. So for me, Blackhawks, no question. I think, again, you have a guy like Connor Hellebuck in the net, and you have Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler at the top position. You can't go wrong with those guys either and with those odds. So I like that. I like those bets, and I agree with you.
All right, last one for you here, Steele. And this one, I feel like we're not going to agree on. Vancouver to make the playoffs at plus 155, to me, is great odds. I think the Ducks, the Sharks, and the Kings will all be on the outside. I don't understand all this love for the Kraken. Maybe it's the shiny new toy thing, but I just don't see the talent on that team for them to make it. I'm not confident enough in Calgary to take them at even odds, but I think getting Vancouver at plus 155 is really juicy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think those are actually fantastic odds for, I think they just did that because of the season they had last year, but they're going to, I have a feeling they're actually going to step up in this new season coming up. Obviously it was a little bit of a struggle, a little bit of a dynamic struggle with Thatcher Demko and Braden Holtby, and obviously Demko not playing up to standard last season. Elias Pettersson as well, just having to struggle within the first month, not able to score a goal. So I think this year it's going to be a little bit of the turning tables for the Vancouver Canucks, and they're going to be a lot better than last season. And at plus 155, like you said, I think those are pretty good odds to take them to make the playoffs.
Well, that's going to be all for today's episode. Of course, bet responsibly. And on behalf of Steele Roden, I'm David Crosby, and thanks for tuning in to NHL Quick Hits.